All right, everyone. It's been a few days since I've been able to get out, but we're back on it again. It's early morning at another one of my uh, regular spots, I would say. Don't get out here as much as I'd like, but it's definitely a spot I like to come to. It's very chilly out. I think probably pretty difficult to come across anything, but we're going to take a walk anyways. I think daytime will be a good bet, if anything. So we'll keep you posted if we find any snakes or any other interesting animals. Okay, everyone. So the good thing is we have beautiful views from here. The bad thing is we're not really finding too much. So we'll stay here and finish the walk, but not looking too good so far. So we'll hop off to another spot after this one. Again, it's pretty early. We've got some time, so keep looking around and check back in if we find something. All right, everyone. I have come across a decent-sized Burmese python. He's not looking too healthy. I'm not really sure what's going on. You can hear him hissing right now. I'm gonna try and check out the situation a little bit more, but it's a pretty thin-looking python. Was very lethargic when I came down and got close, and it seems very agitated. So I don't want to overstress it either, but I want to try and see if there's anything wrong and if there's anything I could do. It may just have been resting here. You can hear the very aggressive hissing there. It looks like it's also going through a shed. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I'm going to spend a minute and try and figure this out. And then I'll check back in with you guys. And if there's something I can do to help it along, I'll definitely do that. Otherwise, I'll just make sure that it's safe where it is, and maybe we'll leave it alone so that we don't overstress it. But give me a minute here to figure it out, and I'll check back in with you. All right. I think the python's okay. I think it was just resting. You can see it's quite agitated, and they've got a decent strike range too, so got to be a little bit careful here. It still does look a little bit thin to me, so I don't want to spend too much time getting it worked up, and I can't tell if it's having a little bit of trouble with a shed, and maybe it's here because it's uncomfortable, or if something else is going on. It's quite difficult to figure it out, but I'm gonna observe just for another minute or two, and then probably leave it alone. It's not in a spot where it can't move into somewhere a little bit more covered or not. So I might have just snuck up on it resting here. So I won't assume too much, but we'll film for another minute or two. I'll try to get some overhead shots and show you guys a little bit more about what they look like. This is the second one in less than a week, so actually pretty exciting. They're not that common in Hong Kong. You don't bump into them that much, so this is kind of interesting. You can hear them hissing right now. They have a very, very deep hiss. This one actually has quite a large head. The head's relatively large even for the body length, so pretty cool find early in the morning. What an interesting one. So here's an overhead. We're just right next to a little bit of an embankment by some rocks that are in the shade, but this is an open area. He's not stuck anywhere. This should be an easy place to move on from. So yeah, what an amazing find first thing in the morning for the start of the herping week. Goodness gracious. I think we're gonna let him chill out and get on our way. So hope that everything will be all right. Seems to have enough energy and definitely enough ability to get out. So not much we can do, and I don't want to harass him too much. So we're gonna make a move. But great start to the week. Check back in on the next find. So I'm just over the top on this little embankment top. And again, this just stops right here on the left, and they can go around, or you can go back up over these rocks. There's nothing stopping him from moving. So I'm not too worried about him not being able to move along. And I'm thinking this may be a snake that's just about ready to shed, maybe just through its blue stage, which is when their eyes get all cloudy and their skin gets a little bit cloudy. And then right before they're ready to shed, everything goes a bit clearer again. And it looks like the skin is a little bit loose, so maybe it's just looking for a place to shed. It does look a little bit underweight for its length, but it's really hard to say. So I'm just not going to bother it anymore. I'm going to move along. And it's hard to tell from this height, but I would say this one's getting on for 3 meters. Maybe not quite there, maybe 2 3/4, but it's pushing it. So it's actually a pretty decent sized python, and definitely capable of moving itself out. So we're going to leave him alone, move on, and see if we can't find something else. But what a crazy find early in the morning here. Check back in with the next one. All right, everyone. So we're heading out of this place, but that was a pretty solid find for the start of the walk. So hopefully there's going to be some more in store for us. But I wanted to take a minute to talk about Burmese pythons. They're actually naturally found in Hong Kong. This is within their natural range. And I wouldn't say they're that common, as I'd mentioned. It's actually quite unusual to find so many different ones in such farly distributed places in so few days. So that's just a bit lucky. But they do have healthy breeding populations here. And they're large enough snakes where there's certainly, people with more nefarious intentions like poachers or people who are scared that might want to kill them instead of moving them out of populated places. But generally speaking, the police here in Hong Kong have a great arrangement with snake catchers that'll come and move them out of populated areas if they're problematic. And outside of the populated areas, there are actually quite a number of healthy breeding populations in more wild areas here, which Hong Kong actually does have quite a lot of, to most people's surprise. But they can get pretty big for those who aren't familiar with the species. I imagine many are because they're so common in the pet trade, and there's a bit of an issue with them now in the southern United States, especially around Florida and the Everglades. But they can get quite large. I would say, as I'd mentioned the one today, about maybe 2 3/4 to 3 meters. And that's certainly not the extent that they can grow to. They can get much larger. I would say the ones I find here on average are probably closer to between 2 and 3 meters, but there's definitely larger ones. We've got some friends here that catch them a little bit more regularly, and the snake catchers, that is, and they see them from 3 to 4 meters, not infrequently. So they can get in excess of 4 meters too, though that would be quite rare, and I don't know that there's one much larger than 4 meters on record in Hong Kong. So pretty spectacular animal to have in a place like this, and they're always exciting to come across. I'm not really sure how things are going to end up for the one we just saw. Like I said, it looked a little bit lethargic, but it also looked like it was coming up to shed, so it might just be uncomfortable. It's been a bit dry, so maybe it's uncomfortable and not quite able to get that shed off as well as it wants. But it had enough energy to hiss and move around a little bit. It moved a little bit, started to make a move as I was heading out. So there was nothing blocking its way. It can definitely move on from the spot it's in. So I figured just best to leave it where it is and let nature take its course. But regardless, like I said, great find. Really interesting species here, really charismatic and large species. But we're going to keep going and see if we can't find something else now. So we'll check back in a bit and let you know how things are going. Okay, everyone. So we haven't found any more snakes, but on the side of the path here, I just found this pretty cool mantis. And you can see he's actually got some pretty neat markings inside his front pincers here. It's black and white and purplish or reddish striped. So I haven't seen that before. I don't know that much about mantis in Hong Kong. I've got a few friends who do. Will probably be able to chime in the comments. But really cool little find. Always nice to come across an animal or creature you haven't really seen before. And even if I have seen these before, I certainly never noticed how interesting their coloration was on the arms. So kind of fun little break. We'll go ahead and get this one put up on one of these bushes over here, so he's got a good chance of finding food and being off the ground where he's a bit vulnerable. But interesting find. And again, for those who know, go ahead and comment. All right, check back in if we find something else. All right, everyone. So, Actually, we have a snake. Can anyone see it? Can you see it? There it is. I think most people would walk by this and think it was a worm, but this is actually a common blind snake. Hong Kong's smallest species of snake, which is a lot of fun because yesterday we found a python, which is Hong Kong's largest species of snake. Now, these guys, as their name indicates, are actually quite common. Unlike the blind snake I found a few episodes ago, the white-headed blind snake, which is actually quite rare. So it's kind of fun to be able to see this. And he's going towards the edge of a little walk-off here, so I want to make sure he doesn't fall. These snakes are not dangerous. They actually are capable of musking, so that's letting out a relatively bad smell, and they have little spiky tails that they'll jab into you if you pick them up, but neither one of those things is dangerous in any way. The biggest danger with these guys actually is if you handle them, it's incredibly easy to injure them. So normally I don't, unless it's a situation like this where it's on a path that I think a lot of folks are probably going to be walking down. So I probably will move him off. But generally speaking, I leave them be because they're so delicate. So this is a really cool find. They're not hard to come by, in all honesty, but just kind of fun to find it on the day after coming across a python. And I think also kind of fun to show everybody the difference between this and the white-headed blind snake. So if you go back and see that episode, which I'll drop a link here, you'll see that those are actually more of a brown color. They look a little bit more like an earthworm in color, and they do have a very pronounced white head, which makes sense given their name, white-headed blind snake. So you can see how small this guy is, very, very tiny. But fun find for this morning. Wasn't expecting to find much, if anything, so glad to come across a snake, even if it's a tiny little blind snake. But we'll stick to it and see if we can't find something else, and we'll check back in if we do. All right, everyone. So this, after not expecting to find anything today, is a beautiful little juvenile common rat snake. What a cool find. I can talk about common rat snakes for a little bit. They actually get quite large in Hong Kong. As adults, they'll get up around 2 meters. And in full disclosure, as with the cat snakes, I've actually never filmed and caught a juvenile common rat snake. Let me just readjust my hand really quick so that I can show you his colors. Really quite interesting. Be right back. Okay, so we can start with the tail here. If you look, there's very clear bands on the middle section of the body, light-colored bands, and then as you work down towards the tail, you get this black mottling. And in this case, on this juvenile, the tail and the body are actually quite yellowish, brownish yellowish coloration. And they do maintain this patterning as they get older, but it becomes a little bit less obvious, especially the body bands, unless they're puffed up and a little bit agitated. So they're actually, I would say, morphologically as juveniles, more extreme than their final patterning as adults, but it is the same basic patterning. And you can see here, the other very characteristic aspect of common rat snakes is the black outlining of the scales by the jaw. See if we can get a little bit of a better focus here. Come on. And that's something that'll become actually more pronounced as they get older. So this is a cool find. We expected to not find too much today, and we've come across a couple blind snakes actually. I only showed you the one, and this little juvenile rat snake. So really, really good day for a cool mid-November walk. But one other thing maybe I can talk about while I've got him here is the handling of wild snakes. It's not something I actually really ever recommend, especially to people that don't have any experience. Number one, Hong Kong is full of a lot of extremely dangerous snakes. And I think handling them without knowing exactly what they are can be life-threatening, not just dangerous. But The other thing is, it is very easy to hurt snakes, as I mentioned when we were talking about the blind snake. So picking them up can be a real risk to you, but it can also be a risk to them, and injuring a snake is not something anybody should ever feel good about. So I think for a number of reasons it's best not to do it. I've got quite a lot of experience, so I am able to tell dangerous species apart, and when I'm not, I am extremely cautious. There's even cases where I'll see something that, you know, it could be one or the other, and I always exercise extreme caution. I almost also never handle in the wild if I can help it too. So in this case, this is a harmless species. It's a juvenile, and I'm very aware of what it is. So thought it would be best just to hold it and show you guys. The other thing is they're quite quick. So short of holding it and showing you, there's no way I'd be able to get it on camera. He'd be off and into the brush. So that's exactly where I'm going to let him go now. But really great find. Really cool, great coloration, and I think a new species for our vlog. So hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to close it out for today and for the week. Thanks for watching as always. More to come next week. And if you liked what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.